We all love a great performance, but what happens when a flawless moment turns into a media firestorm? That's exactly what happened to Carrie Underwood after her Super Bowl performance. What started as criticism quickly spiraled into outright defamation, forcing Carrie to fight back in the most unexpected and powerful way. The Super Bowl halftime show in Miami, Florida, a night where the world's biggest stars take the stage in front of millions. The energy was electric, the anticipation palpable, as fans across the globe tuned in for one of the most watched events in sports history. This year, the spotlight fell on Carrie Underwood, chosen to deliver a powerful rendition of the national anthem before kickoff. For Carrie, this was a moment of celebration, a chance to showcase her voice on one of the grandest stages in entertainment. As she stepped onto the glittering stage, dressed in an elegant gold and white gown, her presence commanded attention. The stadium lights illuminated her, the American flag waving proudly behind her, a symbol of unity and tradition. Then, the first note rang out, clear, strong, unwavering. It was a performance of pure talent, her voice soaring through the open-air stadium, captivating the audience both in the stands and in front of their screens. And as the final note faded and the crowd erupted into applause, Carrie smiled, proud of what she had delivered. It should have been a moment of triumph, an unforgettable career milestone, but within hours the narrative would shift dramatically. What began as a celebration of her artistry would soon become a firestorm of controversy, speculation, and relentless media scrutiny. Unbeknownst to Carrie, that night wasn't just about the Super Bowl, it was about to become the biggest media battle of her career. The morning after Carrie Underwood's Super Bowl performance, the media landscape erupted with divided opinions. While many praised her flawless vocals and commanding presence, others began dissecting every detail, searching for controversy where there was none. What started as a few online critiques quickly turned into a full-blown media spectacle, fueled by sports analysts, entertainment journalists, and political commentators looking to capitalize on the moment. Leading the charge was Jake Reynolds, a well-known sports commentator, who took to his nationally televised morning show to suggest that Carrie's gold and white dress was a deliberate political statement. "Look at the symbolism," he said confidently. "Those colors have been associated with certain ideologies." Was this performance really just about the anthem? His words spread like wildfire, with other networks picking up the speculation, analyzing her outfit, her tone, even her facial expressions for hidden meaning. Melissa Hartman, an influential TV network executive, saw an opportunity. Sensing the potential for high ratings, she instructed her team to push the controversy further. Soon, panel discussions and social media feeds were flooded with heated debates. Was Carrie making a political statement or just doing her job? Hashtags like Carrie Underwood exposed and Carrie stands strong trended simultaneously, reflecting the deepening divide. Fans rallied behind her, insisting she had done nothing wrong, while critics claimed she had crossed a line. By the end of the day, what should have been a celebratory performance had become a national controversy, one that Carrie had yet to respond to. But as the storm intensified, she remained silent, carefully watching how far the media would go to twist her narrative. As the controversy surrounding Carrie Underwood's Super Bowl performance gained momentum, the media's scrutiny intensified. What had begun as minor speculation over her outfit and song arrangement quickly spiraled into a full-scale character attack. Across television networks and online platforms, talk show hosts, sports analysts, and entertainment reporters dissected every aspect of her performance, turning a simple national anthem into a political minefield. Leading the charge, Jake Reynolds doubled down on his claims during his primetime segment. This wasn't just a performance, he insisted, his voice thick with conviction. This was a statement, whether she admits it or not. His words sent shockwaves through the industry, emboldening other media figures to join the debate. Soon, headlines framed her as a controversial figure, with some accusing her of pandering to certain political ideologies, while others painted her as a sellout, abandoning her core values. It didn't stop there. Podcasts, talk shows, and viral social media clips started analyzing past interviews, old lyrics, and even her social circle, searching for anything that could prove she had always harbored political leanings. Some twisted her words, claiming that her small-town roots and Christian faith contradicted her supposed new stance. As the backlash grew, Carrie's silence became fuel for speculation. Some critics took her lack of response as guilt, while others suggested she was strategically avoiding accountability. Meanwhile, her fans launched a counter-movement, flooding social media with messages of support under hashtags like Stand with Carrie and Truth Over Hype. To them, she had done nothing wrong. She was being unfairly targeted by a media machine desperate for ratings. Despite the uproar, Carrie remained composed, refusing to engage in the media's trap. Instead, she quietly observed as the situation escalated beyond simple criticism into outright defamation. Behind the scenes, her legal team began taking notes, tracking every false claim, every baseless accusation. The question was no longer about whether Carrie had deliberately made a statement, it was about how far the media was willing to twist the truth to fit their own narrative. And Carrie was about to show them just how dangerous that game could be. As the media frenzy raged on, the narrative around Carrie Underwood's performance took a darker turn. What had started as opinions and speculation quickly evolved into outright falsehoods, with certain outlets now presenting misinformation as fact. The media had crossed the line. This was no longer about criticism, this was defamation. One particularly sensationalized report claimed that Carrie had intentionally altered the lyrics of the national anthem to send a covert political message. The story, pushed by a viral blog, was soon picked up by mainstream networks, with headlines stating, "Did Carrie Underwood change the national anthem to make a statement?" The problem? It wasn't true. Carrie had performed the anthem exactly as written, but the false claim spread faster than the correction ever could. Another widely shared accusation suggested that Carrie's team had struck a secret deal with event organizers to allow her to sneak in hidden political undertones. Anonymous sources were quoted, providing no real evidence, yet the damage was done. The story painted Carrie as manipulative, dishonest, and willing to exploit her platform for a political agenda. Beyond the fabricated reports, personal attacks escalated. Some commentators questioned her faith, twisting past statements to claim she had abandoned her core values. Others went after her family, dragging her husband and children into the narrative. A few even called for major brands to drop their sponsorships, arguing that Carrie had become too polarizing to represent their image. Behind the scenes, Carrie's team had seen enough. They had documented every false statement, every misleading headline, every baseless accusation. And while Carrie had remained silent, she was far from idle. She wasn't going to play the media's game. She was about to change the rules entirely. The moment had come for Carrie to fight back. But instead of a press release or a social media post, she chose a far more powerful weapon: the law. The defamation lawsuit was about to shake the industry, proving that even the most influential media figures weren't immune to accountability. After days of relentless media attacks, Carrie Underwood finally broke her silence, but not in the way her critics expected. There was no defensive interview, no emotional social media post. Instead, Carrie's legal team filed a defamation lawsuit against Jake Reynolds and the network that had aired the most damaging falsehoods. The lawsuit alleged that the media had knowingly spread false information, twisted her performance into a political controversy for ratings, and caused serious harm to her reputation and career. The news of the lawsuit sent shockwaves across the industry. Major networks scrambled to reassess their coverage, suddenly toning down their rhetoric as the reality of legal accountability loomed. Legal experts weighed in, debating whether Carrie had a strong case or if this was an attack on free speech. Meanwhile, her fans erupted in celebration, flooding social media with messages of support under hashtags like "Carrie Fights Back" and "Truth Matters." Jake Reynolds, the sports commentator who had been the loudest voice against Carrie, initially dismissed the lawsuit as a desperate attempt to silence the truth. But behind closed doors, the situation was far more serious. Emails and internal documents were quietly being gathered by Carrie's legal team, proving that the network had intentionally exaggerated and fabricated claims to drive viewership. At the center of the controversy was Melissa Hartman, the influential TV producer who had directed her team to sensationalize Carrie's performance. When confronted with evidence that producers had deliberately misled the public, Hartman found herself under intense scrutiny, with industry insiders questioning whether she would be forced to resign. As the lawsuit gained traction, other public figures took notice. Celebrities, athletes, and fellow musicians who had faced similar media smear campaigns began voicing their support. Some even hinted that Carrie's legal action could set a new precedent for how media outlets covered controversies involving public figures. Carrie, however, remained focused on the fight ahead. She hadn't filed the lawsuit for money or revenge. She wanted accountability. The trial was fast approaching, and as evidence of media manipulation continued to emerge, it became clear that this wasn't just about one performance or one artist. It was about the power of truth in an age of manufactured outrage. The courtroom in Miami was packed with journalists, legal analysts, and spectators eager to witness what had become one of the most high-profile defamation cases in recent years. Carrie Underwood, dressed in a simple yet elegant black suit, walked in with quiet confidence. This wasn't the stage she was used to, but the stakes here were just as high. This wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about holding the media accountable for fabricating a controversy that had put her career, reputation, and even her family in jeopardy. The trial opened with Carrie's legal team presenting damning evidence. A series of clips from the TV network where hosts and commentators had repeatedly twisted her performance into a supposed political statement. In one segment, Jake Reynolds confidently claimed that Carrie had altered the lyrics to push an agenda, a statement proven entirely false. The courtroom stirred as her lawyer played another segment where panelists speculated on her faith and personal beliefs with no factual basis. Then came the bombshell emails, leaked internal documents from Melissa Hartman's production team, exposing how they deliberately exaggerated and sensationalized the controversy to boost ratings. One email read, "Frame it as a political stunt. Viewers eat that up." Another showed a directive to repeat misleading narratives even after evidence proved them false. The jury watched as Carrie's team outlined a clear strategy of character assassination, carefully orchestrated by the network's producers. When it was time for Jake Reynolds to take the stand, his previous bravado was gone. Under cross-examination, he struggled to defend his words, insisting that his comments were merely opinions, and that the First Amendment protected his right to criticize a public figure. But Carrie's lawyer fired back. Criticism is one thing, spreading falsehoods as fact is another. Then came the most explosive moment of the trial. A leaked audio recording from a network meeting where a producer was heard admitting that they knew Carrie's performance had no political intent, but decided to push the narrative anyway. "Controversy sells," the producer said bluntly. The courtroom erupted in gasps as the judge demanded order. Finally, Carrie took the stand, her voice steady but emotional. "I've spent my entire career bringing people together through music," she told the jury. "But these networks used my name to divide people, to create outrage that never existed. This isn't just about me, it's about telling the truth." The weight of her words settled over the room. The evidence was overwhelming. Now all that remained was the verdict, one that would determine not just Carrie's fight for justice, but the future of media accountability itself. The courtroom was silent and tense as the jury returned with their verdict. Carrie Underwood sat poised, her hands folded in her lap, her expression unreadable. Across from her, Jake Reynolds and the network executives shifted uncomfortably, their earlier confidence visibly shaken after weeks of damning evidence and public scrutiny. The four persons stood, clearing their throat before delivering the words that would send shockwaves across the industry. "We find in favor of the plaintiff, Carrie Underwood." The room erupted in murmurs, cameras flashing as journalists scrambled to relay the decision. The jury had ruled that the network and its commentators had indeed crossed the line into defamation, intentionally spreading falsehoods with reckless disregard for the truth. The damages awarded were in the millions, not just as compensation, but as a clear statement that the era of unchecked media manipulation had come under scrutiny. Reynolds sat stone-faced, while Melissa Hartman, the producer behind the smear campaign, was nowhere to be seen, having resigned from her position just days before the verdict. The network released a cautiously worded statement, acknowledging the ruling but stopping short of an apology. Meanwhile, Carrie stood outside the courthouse, surrounded by fans and supporters, as she gave her first public remarks since the lawsuit began. "This was never about silencing the press," she said firmly. "It was about holding people accountable for knowingly spreading lies. Words have power, and with power comes responsibility." Across social media, the reaction was swift. Supporters hailed it as a victory for truth, while critics debated whether the ruling would have a chilling effect on journalistic freedom. But one thing was clear: the verdict had sent a strong message to media outlets everywhere. Reckless defamation would no longer go unchecked. As Carrie walked away from the courthouse, she knew this battle had been bigger than just her. It was a stand against the growing trend of manufactured outrage, proving that even in a world driven by sensationalism, the truth still mattered. The verdict in Carrie Underwood's lawsuit sent shockwaves through the media industry. Networks that had once sensationalized controversy without consequence were now facing a new reality: accountability. News anchors, entertainment hosts, and media executives scrambled to reassess their editorial standards, fearing that reckless reporting could now have real legal repercussions. The ruling had drawn a clear line between freedom of speech and defamation, proving that while criticism is protected, knowingly spreading falsehoods is not. In the weeks following the trial, industry-wide discussions erupted. Journalism ethics panels, legal analysts, and media watchdogs debated what the case meant for the future of press freedom. Some worried that it would lead to self-censorship, while others saw it as a much-needed wake-up call for responsible reporting. Networks quietly revised their internal policies, ensuring that opinion pieces were clearly labeled and that claims were properly vetted before airing. Meanwhile, Carrie Underwood emerged from the ordeal stronger than ever. While the media had attempted to define her through scandal, she had taken back control of her narrative. Her fans, who had stood by her throughout the controversy, celebrated the victory as a stand for truth over manufactured outrage. Even those who had initially been critical of her began to reconsider their stance, realizing how easily public figures could be misrepresented for the sake of ratings. But for Carrie, this battle was never just about herself. In a final interview, she reflected on the case's greater significance. "This isn't about silencing criticism," she stated. "It's about making sure we hold each other accountable. Words matter. The truth matters." The case had left a lasting impact, proving that, celebrity or not, everyone deserves to be treated with fairness and honesty. And as the dust settled, one undeniable fact remained: this wasn't just Carrie Underwood's fight. It was a turning point for media integrity in the modern age. Carrie Underwood's battle against media defamation teaches a powerful lesson about truth, accountability, and the consequences of reckless reporting. In an era where misinformation spreads faster than facts, her case highlights the fine line between criticism and character assassination. While public figures expect scrutiny, the media has a responsibility to report fairly and truthfully rather than distorting reality for ratings and controversy. Carrie's decision to fight back legally instead of engaging in public debate sent a clear message: words have power, and those who misuse them must be held accountable. The case wasn't about silencing the press, but about demanding integrity in journalism. It reminded the world that even celebrities are human beings and that false narratives can cause real harm to their careers, reputations, and families. For audiences, the story serves as a wake-up call to be more critical of the media we consume. It challenges us to question sensationalized headlines, verify information, and resist the urge to judge based on biased narratives. Ultimately, Carrie's fight wasn't just for herself. It was for the importance of truth in an era dominated by clickbait and media manipulation.